welcome to another Metal Temple interview. I have Victoria Knight here from Melbourne, Australia. And
Hey.
Victoria is the mastermind of symphonic metal band Victoria K. Welcome, Victoria.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on Metal Temple. Super excited to be doing this interview. And thank you for doing it so late at night for you in Germany. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, on the other hand, it's early for you, 9:30 in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's all right. It's pretty bright here in Australia. It's getting into our summer, so it's
Right.
it's getting nicer. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
it's
opposite here. Now it's getting colder and colder, and as you see here. So how is life in Melbourne?
yeah, really good. I love Melbourne personally. I love like the culture and the arts. Um, like I said, it is getting warmer here, so it's nice. But with Melbourne, you can never trust weather, to be honest. We have probably the worst weather in Australia, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, life in Melbourne in general, it's great. Like especially for artists, like visual artists and musical artists as well. There's near the train station near Flinders Street, there's a massive arts precinct where they have the National Gallery and they have the Art Centre where they're doing Phantom of the Opera right now.
Ah,
So yeah, it's there's a lot going on. Lots of gigs in Melbourne as well to go see. Lots of gigs to perform. Um, yeah, it's just I can't even describe how good it is. I really, really love it here, especially as a musician. There's so many opportunities to perform. I'm actually going tonight to go see one of my friends from Sydney, Valhalla. They're supporting Ailstorm down here in
ah.
Melbourne. So, yeah, I'm gonna go see them tonight. So yeah, there's always stuff going on. Lots of performances.
So you
Yeah,
have a Hailstorm show tonight ahead of you?
yeah. I'm not performing.
No, no.
I'm going to watch my other friend. So my
Right.
friend's band, they're called Valhalla. They're from Sydney. They're like a folk metal band. Really, really cool stuff. So yeah, so instead of actually performing tonight, I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy a show, which is really exciting as well for me. I love going to
Hmm.
watch live music.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really good we have those opportunities here.
I really want to talk to you about the opportunities you have coming from COVID and Australia. I believe Australia did have some strict COVID rules, especially coming into the country, going out of the country. So how was the time during COVID and this year with touring? Did you have some opportunities to go on tour or how is it?
Yeah, so we did an Australian tour at the end of 2021 and at the start of 2022. So uh like November through to January. Um and that was pretty much as soon as we came out of lockdown. We were like, no, we've got to go on tour now.
Right.
But yeah, we were in lockdown for a while. Obviously, has been in lockdown for a while. But during that time that we were in lockdown from 2020 to 2021, that's when I wrote Core. So um, since I wasn't really doing anything else because we were in lockdown, I used that opportunity to write the album. So it kind of worked in our favor. Um, it was a little bit disheartening when we did go into lockdown, because right before we went into lockdown, we had supported Elvidi,
Hmm.
um, and we were planning to go on a tour for Essentia, but then we went into lockdown. So we wrote the new album and we went on tour as soon as we came out of lockdown. There were different restrictions for different things. Like towards the end of the massive lockdown, they were letting live music, they were letting them rehearse. So then we could release it as soon as lockdown ended. And we found that once we started our Australian tour, people were just dying to go to shows. So, it was buzzing every single night, because everyone had been starved of live music for so long, for like 2 years.
Mm.
So everyone was, yeah, dying to get out, go to live shows, and like it was just really, really good energy coming from the audience because they were just excited to be there wherever they were. um, but yeah, so like look, it's a lot better here in Australia now. It's pretty much like nothing happened. I'm not sure of all the circumstances with you guys in Europe, but yeah, we're planning some other stuff for the
Mhm.
future. We're planning a tour for our new album, Quarter, and now we can do that freely because we don't have any
Mhm.
restrictions. Yeah, but we did find with our last tour, it was very broken up only because shows kept getting cancelled because people kept getting COVID, and then venues wouldn't let people in because of restrictions, and it was really, really messy. So we're hoping that this next tour goes really smoothly.
Right. I think we had a similar situation here in Europe. I think it started all a little bit end of last year with
Mm.
some shows, but lots of tours were canceled and or postponed. Quite often they try to postpone things, and this year it started all, but then venues did the shows they had postponed 2 years and 3 years ago. So if you wanted to do a new tour, it was challenging to find a venue because we were overbooked. And
Yeah, it's like us here. It was the
what I
same.
noticed is that people were very cautious at the beginning, but then it actually went better and better and better. So venues were more crowded, more crowded. I think now I think back to normal, I think. So
Yeah, that's like us now. I think it's
uh,
back to normal.
so I went this year to 40 shows.
Whoa, 40 shows.
Yes.
That's insane.
Traveled a lot. And so how is it actually as an artist in Austria? I mean, metal and is not really mainstream, so I guess distances are very huge. So how challenging is that touring in Australia?
Touring. Yeah, it is challenging because Australia, it's pretty much like a massive desert.
Yeah.
Um, big desert country. Like this, so you've got all the cities that are on the borders, and on the inside in the middle, there's like nothing. So yeah, to travel from one state to another, it's like a day's trip, which doesn't seem too bad. But then when you've got a show in one state and the show in the next state the next day, it's a lot. Um, we normally drive everywhere as well anyway.
Okay.
Just flying with instruments is just a nightmare.
Mm.
Um, and we fly normally to Queensland because it's too far to drive. But yeah, when we go on our massive tours, we just drive everywhere, also to save costs. But it's just really tiring traveling from state to state because like the country's so barren,
Mm.
and there's not even anywhere to stop in between. You just got to keep going, otherwise you'd be stopping in the middle of nowhere. It all becomes very disoriented after a while, but it's good fun when you're with your bandmates. You make good fun out of it. But the metal scene here isn't as massive. No, not
No.
as not as Europe and America. Especially the symphonic metal scene and the gothic metal scene, which is what I'm kind
Right.
of yeah. Here in Melbourne, especially in the metal scene, there's a lot of prog bands like progressive metal and metalcore and modern metal. So I'm kind of just like on the outer. There are a few really good symphonic bands here. One's called Devonian. They're from Queensland, I believe. We played a show with them, I think, a year ago,
Mhm.
and they're like symphonic death metal. Really, really cool. And another one that we did our Australian tour with called Carmeria, who are from Sydney, who I'm really good friends with. Another symphonic band. But
Mhm.
yeah, there's not many of us. So we kind of just, work it out amongst ourselves. And then we meet all the other like metalcore bands, prog bands, and they're all just, yeah, all the music kind of works in a way.
Right.
Um, it kind of all blends together to create a really cool dynamic show. But since the metal community is so small, everyone knows each other in Australia. It's
Mm.
it's really cool. It's really weird. It's like a big family. So
Right.
I'm really proud to be a part of that community, if that makes sense.
Well, Australia surely didn't invent symphonic metal, and you are a symphonic metal artist. So when I think of Australia, I'm coming from thrash metal. So, okay, Mortal Sin. Okay, then you think metalcore, of course, then Parkway Drive, Thy Art is Murder. That are
Yeah.
names which are related to Australia, but no symphonic metal band. Is that a challenge or an opportunity for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I find it to be both in a way.
Hmm.
Since there is a challenge, obviously, to grow that audience because it's a bit of a niche sound coming from Australia and like for Australian audiences. But I find that whenever I do perform, people seem to gravitate towards the sound. So people like symphonic metal, they're just not exposed to it. That's what it is. um, but it is an opportunity in a way since there's not many other bands that play symphonic metal in Australia. You know, it gives us that point of difference in a way. Like we can, and as along with the other symphonic metal bands that I mentioned before, we can kind of stand out a bit
Yeah.
and you know create a different experience to what's already going on in Australia. Yeah.
Let's talk about you and your musical career a little bit. Let's start at the beginning. When did you start singing, and how did you come into metal?
Whoa. Very, very far away, very far back. I think I've been getting like professional singing training for probably about 11 or 12 years.
Wow.
Um, since I was really, really little. Um, I used to do a lot of um, theater when I was younger, like a lot of musicals and things like that. Um, and I did jazz training for a while as well. So I was a jazz singer. And then my mum actually, she loved Evanescence and all those types of bands when she was growing up. And she's like, "Hey, listen to this." And she played My Immortal and I was like, "Oh, okay." Okay, this is what I have to do now. Like, and I was kind of just drawn to it. And since then I started listening to heavier bands. This was probably when I was about 8 or 9. This happened.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I started listening to heavier bands at that time as well. Not super, super heavy bands like Lacuna Coil, Nightwish, and I kind of fell into that symphonic metal place. Um, and then yeah, from there it's just expanded, and I really, really wanted to get involved in the metal community because of those
Mhm.
bands, and because I kind of had that background in theater and jazz and stuff. I kind of had a different style of vocal singing, vocal training as well. And, I could kind of use that, sorry, I could use that to get that more symphonic sound, that operatic sound. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, I started like professional opera
Mhm.
training. So I'm now a trained opera singer,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, yeah. So that's kind of where most of my vocal work comes from. About half of my music career has come from opera. And I've also trained in classical music. I play viola and piano, a little bit of harp. Um, so I have that classical background that I've kind of tried to put into the metal, to get that symphonic metal sound, but also I wanted to try and create something a little bit different. So yeah. And I still study opera now, and I'm still
Mhm.
doing recitals and stuff aside from doing the Victoria K stuff. So I'm doing a bit of both, but the Victoria K stuff is like what I love and what I want to
Right.
pursue.
So
Yeah.
before you actually started Victoria K as a band, or you started actually as a solo artist, isn't it?
Yeah, I did. I started as a solo artist. Still Victoria K. It's
Yeah, of
just
course,
transit.
of course. The first album you actually released as a solo artist still, and then actually you formed then Victoria K as a band. What was the reason?
Well, I was always just it just always kind of happened that I was just planning on being a solo artist. Kind of like Doro. But Yeah, we recorded Essentia with session musicians that we knew, and then it was that show, the Alvides show that I played in 2019. Um, Before Essentia was released, we were like, oh, we actually need a band to play live. So through my producer, we found our drummer, James, and James found our guitarist, Julia, because they were friends from
Mhm.
university. And then Julia knew our original bass player, who was also friends with them from university. So, and I knew Sherry, who featured on the album, the extreme vocalist. So she came on. She's from Sydney, great vocalist. She came on and did the show with us. But yeah. So it was recorded by session musicians, and then we found the band. But the only reason we found the band after was because we had to do this Alvides show. It just had
Right.
never really crossed our minds before that we needed a live band,
Mm.
which is really stupid. But here we are.
I
And
see.
the band, yeah, the band has grown and it's changed over the
Right.
years.
There
Um,
were few tweaks in the lineup, I believe.
yeah, yeah, and it's just what happens. Like
Yeah,
COVID made it really
yeah.
difficult. Um, you know, I'm still friends with like all of them that were in
Hmm.
Victoria K before, like amazing people. It's just you know, other people had their own solo things that they were pursuing, and with COVID, especially with our old extreme vocalist, it was hard because she's from Sydney. Um,
Hmm.
it just everything became a little bit difficult, and we just all decided, look, it's best if we all step back and we just kind of look at the bigger picture. And now everyone's from Melbourne. So yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
actually, you found a new bassist with Charlie, who also does the male growling vocals, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're really lucky. We got like a little package with Charlie. Um, he can do both, which is awesome. The way we found Charlie is my sound engineer that I record with, um, he was friends with Charlie in university. So he was like, hey, why don't you try to like do extreme records on this album? And he was like, yeah, sure. And we heard him, we were like, oh, okay, we didn't know you could, like, you're amazing. So he absolutely killed it, and it happened that he could play bass and guitar as well. um yeah, he kind of just appeared, and just we were lucky to find him, and we're lucky to have him. Yeah.
All that actually happened around 2019. So Essentia was released in 2019, and then formally Victoria K was formed also in 2019. So you signed then to Italian label Rockshots Records in early 2020, I think.
Yeah, so we signed to
And
Rockshots early
yeah,
2020. We released Essentia in 2020 as well.
20, yeah. Mhm. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, so during our massive lockdown.
right,
So yeah, we recorded Essentia 2019. We had that show for Alvides, and then pretty much straight after that, yeah, we signed to Rockshots because it was towards the end of the year.
mm,
Um, and then we did all the photo shoots and the video shoots with the band. Um, and yeah, we released Essentia in 2020. And I remember the day that we released Essentia. We were in lockdown at that time, but
right.
my producer calls me. He's like, "Hey, we need to start working on the next album now." And I'm like, "Oh wait, we do." So like from the day that Essentia was released, I started working on Core, like brainstorming and doing all that stuff. So it never stops. It just keeps
It never
going.
stops. I hear that very often in interviews. Bands release their album and then they already start writing stuff for the new album. So that seems to be a common feature. So, and then you wrote Core.
Yep.
It was released last month.
Hmm. November
And
14th.
how's the response so far?
It's been really good. It's a bit of a different venture from what Essentia was, and I was a little bit anxious to see what was going to happen, like when we released it, from people that had heard Essentia already, and they were probably like expecting a certain sound. But it's been received really well. People seem to really like the the new path that we've taken in a way. Um, and like I've read a bunch of reviews and they've been really positive so far. And you know, and it's been, yeah, I can't even say anything else. Like I'm really, really grateful for the reception that it's gotten. And I can't wait to see how the album kind of grows within the scene and to see what happens with it in the future. It's only been a month, so like it can only, you know, get better in a way.
You said things were made differently compared to Essentia, and let's start with that. So first of all, Core is a concept album, isn't it?
Yeah, it
What is the
is.
concept?
Okay, so it's I wanted to draw concept from mythology, especially Greek mythology, because I've got Greek heritage. I feel really connected to that. It's based on the hymn to Demeter. So it's the story of Hades and Persephone. Persephone is the goddess of spring, but her original name was Kore. Kore, yeah. So
Core,
which is
okay,
Kore. Yeah.
good,
It's a Greek word. It means daughter in
okay.
ancient Greek. Um, but Core makes sense as well. But yeah, so that was her original name before she became Persephone. So Persephone was harvesting flowers, and Hades, the god of the underworld, saw her, and he kidnapped her because he thought she was so beautiful. Um, and Persephone's mother, Demeter, who's the goddess of the harvest, um, she was so stricken by grief that the earth died around her. So like all the plants died, the sun kind of died, everything died. And yeah, so the album is kind of about the journey that the mother takes, her journey of grief. She orders the people of Ulysses, which is the city where they were, um, in the kingdom of Ulysses, to build a tower and a temple in honor of her and her daughter. And she tries to take on the king and queen's child to replace her daughter. And while all this is going on, Persephone is in the underworld, and she changes her name to Persephone while she's in the underworld. And Persephone means bringer of destruction. So there's kind of like she found her identity there in a way. And she does fall in love with Hades eventually, and she does want to stay there eventually. But when it's Persephone's time to leave, when Hades says, "Okay, I'll let you go back to your mother now," Hades tricks Persephone into eating 6 pomegranate seeds, and if you eat food in the underworld, you're not allowed to leave. Your soul is tied to the underworld. So they made a deal that for 6 months she can go and live up with her mother, and for 6 months she has to live with Hades. And that's why there's 6 pomegranate seeds, one for each month. And whenever Persephone goes up to live with her mother, the flowers bloom and it's spring and summertime. And whenever she goes to live with Hades, the mum gets upset and then the earth dies again. So it's kind of like a really, really long-winded story about how the seasons exist. Does that make sense?
You
Does that all
know,
make sense?
I just realized that I learn a lot of things even at midnight here. So yeah, it makes sense really, and I'm really blown away by your really detailed knowledge about the Greek mythology. What did you have to do to get this
Oh,
detailed knowledge?
yeah, so we wanted to be really authentic to the story.
Hmm.
Um, I remember first learning about this story in my ninth grade Greek class.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so it kind of makes sense. But I've always been connected to it. But yeah, we did all of our own research. We found the original text, which is in ancient Greek, which we got translated because I can't speak ancient Greek. Um,
Do you speak modern Greek?
a little bit,
A little bit.
yeah,
Okay.
not amazingly well.
Okay.
If- My family doesn't want to hear that, but yeah, not amazingly well. I used to speak better when I was younger. I just haven't had a chance to speak
Mm.
or practice it. But yeah, so we got a translator to translate it from ancient Greek to modern Greek. And we spoke. This is a really interesting story. We spoke to this scholar, Greek scholar. His name is Yanni Pantazis, and I met him in 2016 when I was in Santorini. Um, and it was really weird how we found him. We were in a village in Santorini, and there was this massive castle at the top of the village, and we were like, "Oh, we'll go check that out. What's that?" And we went up to this castle, and then there was this guy in there making these ancient instruments,
Okay.
and, and that was Yanni. And then yeah, we've been friends since then. So yeah, we spoke to him because he's a Greek scholar. With really, really deep knowledge of these texts, and he has access to all of the original material. Um,
Oh,
and yeah, I had a meeting with him and my producer, and I think his partner that speaks really good English. But we had a really, really in depth um, research session and conversation about the story, and as well as about the story, we had really in depth conversation about Greek music, ancient Greek modes, ancient Greek rhythms and instruments that we've managed to implement into the album now, very subtly, um, to add more authenticity. But it was a lot of going back and forth with the translator as well, and making sure we were staying true to the story. So like we broke the story up into 9 sections, and then I wrote all of the songs for each section of the story, obviously to create the concept.
mhm.
But we wanted to make sure we were authentic to the language and authentic to the story, because there's so many like now different versions of the story, but we wanted to use the original one. So a lot of creating this album was actually researching it, and the writing part was really, really small compared to everything else we did. So yeah.
I believe some of the lyrics are also in ancient Greek, isn't it?
Yeah, they are. So that was with the translator, we worked to get that done. In Persephone, the spoken part
Mhm.
in the center of the song, that's directly from the text. So that's that section of the story in the original text. And I did have to get the translator to speak it because I can't read ancient Greek. It's
Right.
completely different to modern
Okay.
Greek. I didn't expect that, but it was. Um, and a lot of the other sections in the other songs, there are lyrics that I wrote that the translator translated for us. So I really thought it'd be cool to add that in there, just to add,
Oh yes, definitely, definitely. You mentioned your Greek heritage. Building a concept around Greek mythology seems to be obvious, but the Greek mythology is very rich. How did you select this topic?
Well, there are lots of stories I could have chosen. And I kind of grew up reading and learning about Greek mythology anyway, because that's just the stories that I heard as a child that my grandparents would tell me, even my parents would tell me. Um, there's so many stories that you could have like chosen, but I was talking to my producer and we chose the concept together. And we were thinking about it. We were like, I don't know if many bands have done a concept album based on this myth, and that's why we chose it. Also, the myth has a lot of themes which resonated with me personally, things about female identity and, you know, the story of the seasons. I find it just a really, really beautiful story um, of the secular nature of life. And I just thought I think it's a gorgeous story, and I really, really wanted to tell it.
Let's move from the concept a little bit to the sound. In principle, it is a symphonic metal album, but it would be too short to describe it as symphonic metal album because it comes with a lot of different influences, subgenres. You have some Middle Eastern influences. You have the Greek folk aspect in the album. You also have some progressive elements. How would you describe the sound of the album?
That's difficult. I try not to describe
Okay.
the sound of music, but I'll try. One thing that I always love doing is I love letting other people describe it for me. Like
Well,
you,
I did start. I did start.
you did start. You did start. Um, I have had a lot more of a prog influence. During COVID, I listened to a lot more prog bands. Leprous is one of my favorites. Um, yeah, that influence is definitely in there. Um, the Greek influence, it comes from, again, my heritage. But so hard to describe. I would definitely describe it as dark symphonic prog metal.
Dark
Basically everything
symphonic
you said.
prog metal. Okay, good. Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like ethnic dark symphonic prog
Ethnic. Yeah,
metal.
okay, okay. We might go to the metal archives and put this in there. So that is
Yeah.
really.
Um, okay.
Is that with Korea a one-off, or do you believe, or do you think that might be something like the Victoria K trademark sound of the future?
Oh, I've thought about that actually. That's really hard to say because um even in Essentia there were some of these Greek sounds coming through, like in Haunting and Surreal, and that just happened because I don't know, it's just there. But um I've thought about it and I actually have no idea what's gonna happen in the future. Like I've been writing heaps of music since
Right.
Korea. Um and it's all just like some of it sounds like Quora, some of it's completely different. I just guess we just have to see, what happens with the sound in the future. I do love the idea of having the ancient Greek elements in there. I feel really connected to it. And to have the language in there, I also feel connected to
Mhm.
that. A lot of those things are very, very central to the story as well, to keep it true to the story. If we were to do another concept album and if it wasn't about Greek mythology, then I don't know what would happen. Maybe that can be our thing. Maybe we only write about Greek mythology from now on. But yeah, I just guess we just have to see what happens with the sound. It's really unknown at this point.
Mhm. I mean, concept-wise, you probably would have still material for the next 20 years to write when you focus on Greek mythology.
Yeah, it's true. There's so much out there.
So
So
you might have explored there a good opportunity. I mean, you stand a little bit out with that sound among the symphonic metal folks, because it is really something you do not listen to every day when you listen to symphonic metal, isn't it?
no, it's not. Um, we wanted to do something a little bit different. Um, we wanted to try use like a lot of symphonic metal. They use a Western symphonic sound with influence from you know the Renaissance era and stuff like that. And that's what I love that stuff too. But we wanted to try take a different approach. We're like, what if we go to the Middle East? What happens there?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of it. But it just happened to be that it sounds different from other symphonic metal stuff, and I'm really glad it does. I'm really glad that to people that we've been standing out, you know.
I felt actually there is more than that in the sound. So when I reviewed the album, I felt that the strengths of the albums are first of all the diversity in the sound, putting together all these different elements, the crossing of boundaries. You mentioned already there's a lot of progressive elements in, and then of course, vocals are always central in symphonic metal. But I actually felt your vocals were really outstanding on the album, and with your huge vocal range, the versatility, and I thought you have an enormous power. So I sometimes felt, okay, now she's holding back a little bit. And
Thanks.
so, what is your secret actually?
My secret.
Your
Oh,
secret as a vocalist?
that's really I've got to keep those secret. No.
Okay.
No. Thank you. That's really, really kind. But I really don't know. Well, I have, like I said before, I've been getting training for years,
Hmm.
11 or 12 years. And I think a lot of it comes from, um, the different styles of training I've gotten. Um, like, you don't have to get heaps and heaps of different styles of training to be a great vocalist. but I think that's where a lot of um, my range and tonal shift comes from. Being a musical theatre singer, being a jazz singer, being an opera singer, you know, it kind of gives me different things that I can pick up on, different techniques that I can use at different times. Um, I think as well, like I remember when I very, very first started getting lessons, I would practice every night for half an hour. I still practice nearly every day for half an hour. um, I'm very, very strict when it comes to practicing my vocals. Um, a lot of technical work, so I practice a lot of scales, um, things like that. So I think that just constantly working on your voice, constantly working and learning and growing is really important, I think, to being a vocalist. And also good vocal health is really important. Because it's your body, like your instrument is your body, so you
Yeah.
have to take care of yourself, keep healthy, keep fit, you know, don't don't scream, don't things like that. Like I don't know, I just try to take care of my voice a lot. I'm very,
Mhm.
very strict with things like what I eat when I sing, things like that. But I think definitely it's been the training that I've had and all the exposure that I've had to such good mentors. So I can't thank them enough.
Did you ever look into growling vocals in more
I
extreme?
have,
You do?
I
Okay,
have, yeah,
right.
definitely. Um, I've been looking into it for a while actually. It's something that I really want to do. Really want to do. I'm a bit scared. Being growing up in that classical music
Hmm.
community, like I'm very, very, very scared of losing my range. You know, being an opera singer, I need to be able to sing
Right.
really high
Mm.
and really low. But it's something that I definitely want to look into. I remember talking to my vocal teacher, who's also a voice therapist, um, talking to her about it, and she was like, "Go for it, but make sure you have a really good foundation first." So I'm still working to get that really good foundation to be able to then take it to extreme vocals. But yeah, something I definitely want to do in the
Okay.
future. Yeah.
Nowadays, in modern metal, you do not really come away without having some extreme vocals anymore, isn't it?
Well, no, I don't think so. You probably can,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's so common now to have the extreme vocal.
yeah, exactly. Coming back to the album, the concept, what actually came first, the concept or the music?
The concept,
The concept.
definitely the concept. But some of the songs on the record, songs like Mother's Garden. Mother's Garden, I wrote that um I wrote that before the concept. But then I just changed the lyrics to match the concept.
Okay,
And I changed some of the musical aspects.
right.
But Mother's Garden, I wrote it, I was studying, at the time that I wrote it, I was studying sound production and songwriting and all that stuff. And I wrote it for an assignment. I wrote it for an assignment and I did really well in the assignment,
Right.
which is but then yeah, I remember having the song and I was like, wait, this is like I could use this. And then I just changed some of the aspects to match the vibe of Corre. And of course I changed the lyrics to match the vibe of Corre. Um, and I really think it fit well for that part of the concept because it was the song, it's very dark, so I thought it fit really well. But yeah, most of the songs came after the concept, except for that one.
Okay.
Yeah,
You are not only the vocalist, you are also the songwriter. So how
yeah.
does the songwriting work at Victoria K? Do you do
Um,
everything by yourself or are the
I do
others also joining up?
I do most of it on my own. For this album particularly, I kind of took on more of the responsibilities than I did for Essentia. Um, So since we were in lockdown, I couldn't really meet up with anyone and be like, "Hey, let's jam and try this out," because we were alone. So, um, I pretty much wrote everything on my own. It started off with just piano, lyrics, and things like that. And then I charted up all of the other instrumental bits. And then, like, because we had some breaks in our lockdowns, when I could get into the studio, I met up with my producer, who's a phenomenal composer, classical composer. He's absolutely amazing. We went through and then we tweaked it together, but I already had all the songs written with all the music written by the time I got to the studio. So we tweaked everything and then we wrote a lot of the orchestration, and we sent off all the charts to the musicians. And whenever they play, we send off basic charts to the musicians, and they always add their own kind of edge whenever they play it. They kind of change up the music a little bit. So a lot of the instrumental parts, like the core of it, the bass of it was written by me. But then the instrumentalists, they add their own take on it. So it's kind of collaborative in that way, but I pretty much write everything myself. Yeah.
You also do write the lyrics. I believe for Corey it was quite straightforward to write the lyrics because you had the concept, but in Essentia you didn't have a concept. So how does the lyric writing work if it is not a concept? Where do you get your inspirations from?
I get inspiration from a lot of places. I love poetry. I studied literature for a long time, and I love classical literature, classical poetry, things like that. My favorite poet has to be Sylvia Plath. Really, really dark stuff, but it's really cool, really twisted. But yeah, just a lot of my influence does come from things that I read and things that I see. For Essentia especially, the song Lacuna. Lacuna is Latin and it means missing space. So I wrote the whole song based around that one word because I'm like, that's a cool word. I'm gonna write a song about it. And then there was another song, Shroud of Solitude, which is about an Edgar Allan Poe poem that I read, where there was a demon and he used to sit by the river every day, but he was mute and he was deaf. And I got really emotional when reading that. So I'm like, okay, I'll write a song about it. So yeah, a lot of it does actually come from literature, a lot of my influence. And a lot of my influence comes from, you know, feelings and emotions and things like that too. So, but a lot of the lyric influence is from literature, definitely.
Okay. The most difficult question. What are your favorite songs from Corey?
Oh no! I get asked this every single time and I never know what to answer. Oh, I have thought about it. That's so hard.
Yes, I know.
Oh dear. Well, I have to say Mother's Garden.
Okay.
I love Mother's Garden. Mainly just for the way it sounds. I really like the way it's come out. It's really whimsical. It's one of the softer songs on the album,
Okay,
but
yeah.
I quite like it. It's quite dark. I also watch me end up naming all of the songs. I also love Tower.
Yeah.
It's
Tower
among my
it's among my top 3 as well.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Awesome. Tower has to be one of my favorites. Yeah, I really love the way the song came together. It was such a big project, that one. It's the longest one on the album.
Okay. Yeah.
Putting it together, we had to, like, I wrote all the parts separately, then I kind of just like went together. Here we go. I wanted to write that one kind of like a concerto with different movements, and I think it came out that way, so I'm really happy with that. But my third favorite, oh no, either oh no, there's so many aspects of all of them that I like. Either Persephone or A Divine Revelation. They're tied. They're evenly tied.
Right. Persephone is also one of mine. Yeah.
Your top 3? Yeah. Divine.
Yeah.
Persephone. I think it's got a really cool vibe about it.
Hmm.
I really
Yeah.
like the chorus. I like how it came out. I love the instrumentals, like the string
Hmm.
sections, the really
Hmm.
good cello sections. Um, oh, or pomegranate.
Yeah, that is my third one.
Yeah, pomegranate. Pomegranate probably. No, I reckon it's Mother's Garden, Tower, Persephone, and Pomegranate. I have top
You have
four,
four.
not top three.
Okay, fine.
I love Pomegranate. That was the first one on the album that we put together.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so that song came first, and then I based the whole sound of the rest of the album off of that song.
Right.
So
That
yeah,
is
so that song was
that is
done
a
before.
very diverse song, I felt. Has quite a lot of complexity in it.
Yeah. Thank you. Probably because it was the first one that we wrote.
Maybe.
Um, yeah, so I had all the songs pretty much written and
Mhm.
done. Not the musical aspects, just the lyrical aspects and the chords and piano sections and some riffs and string
Mhm.
sections and stuff. It was very much like the meat and the guts of each song was written. And then I went into the studio, and then my producer was like, "Okay, play me all the songs, and we can choose which one will be the first one." So I played all of the songs, and we were all like, "Yeah, it should be pomegranate. It should be pomegranate only because of that that section."
Okay.
Um, Everyone was like, "Oh, we got to put that out there." That's the only reason why that was first, just because of that one riff. So
All
yeah.
right. That's interesting. Two of those of our favorites, I think Persephone and Tower, were released as videos, and videos are today also for metal very important. So how does actually the video process work from the start, let's say from the idea to the shoot?
Okay. We have one of my really good friends. His name's Gary Robinson. He's our videographer, who we used on Essentia as well. So he loves this style of music. Also, he shoots for a lot of bands here in Australia. So I do a lot of storyboarding. I
Okay.
draw up the section. I physically draw up the sections of the
Right.
song. Yeah, I don't know. It's a process that we've come to do where we draw up each section of the song. Um, it's the songs obviously come first before the videos. Um, with these videos in Cora especially, I wanted them to be a little bit more artsy, a little bit more avant-garde than the ones in Essentia were, than just straight band videos. Um, and the trouble with doing these videos, especially Tower, is that the songs are really long.
Yeah, yeah.
And we need to find content to fill 8 minutes and not get boring.
Right.
So yeah, I sat with my videographer. It was a lot of like meetings. It was a lot of what are we gonna do here? And we kind of came up with the ideas together. Like as I was writing Core, I had a really strong idea of what I wanted this album to look like, of what I wanted the project to look like, the colors. Like I'm like, I need it to be red and gold. I want it to have a lot of ritualistic imagery, bit more of a modern vibe, bit more like cinematic
Mhm.
quality kind of going on. And we came up with the idea of having these two songs kind of the videos being antithesis of each other. So Persephone, it was filmed in a white setting, whereas Tower was filmed in a black setting, and we did that on purpose to have two
Okay.
contrasting things, kind of the same themes. We thought it was cool, and yeah, so Persephone, we wanted to go with more of a strict band video, um, but with the props of like the sticks and stuff, which makes the branches and all that, which makes sense in the context of the story because Persephone was the goddess of spring and like nature and flora and stuff like that. Um, I remember making the set for that video. It's still in my backyard now. I've got all the sticks. They're all painted and they're kind of just in a big pile. But I spent like a day spray painting heaps of sticks. Like I went into there's this massive park near where I live, and I collected a bunch of sticks and branches that fell off trees, and I lugged them back to my house, and then bought heaps of spray paint and sprayed the whole set, sprayed the sticks in my backyard. But homemade sets. But we filmed that one in an abandoned abattoir.
Right.
An abandoned meat market, because I don't know, we're like, oh, it looks like an asylum, that's so cool. So we had the white background and the sticks, and that's the concept we came up with. We're like, oh, let's just make a really cool, like, arty looking thing, but to kind of match with the story, we put sticks and Tower was more of a challenge. That Persephone was a 1-day shoot. We shot in 1 day and we were done. Yeah, we got our makeup done. We got to the shoot about 2 o'clock, and we finished shooting at about 11 o'clock at night, including setup time and all that.
Right.
Tower, yeah, it took a few weeks because everything was so broken up. So we had the concept. It was all shot in the same place, in the same room. It was upstairs in the attic of a real estate office.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, an abandoned attic that we found in a real estate office, and we're like, "Hey, can we use this?" And like, "Yeah, sure." So we went after closing hours to film it. Massive, huge space, completely empty. It was really awesome. And with that one, we wanted to try a lot of things with different types of lighting and stuff. So we have the flickering lights and the red lights. And I did all of the makeup for all the guys in the band for that video shoot too.
Oh,
so
okay.
it was a matter of like, all the guys were filmed on the same day. So James and Charlie, we had 1 day where they shot all of their stuff. It only took so long because the song's 8 minutes long, and you have to do multiple takes of the song to get the right cuts and right shots. So yeah, we had 1 day where they filmed. Then we had another day when me and Julia, when we filmed our band parts, the parts where I'm singing and where she's playing. And then there was 1 more day. So it was done in 3 days, but broken up over a few weeks. There was 1 more day where I filmed all of the extra stuff. So the stuff where I've got like the big white gown on, doing the ritualistic stuff, all that, and the wings, and that was another day of shooting and setting up, and just kind of a lot of the decisions in the video that we made were made on the day. We're like, oh, let's just try this and just see what happens, and then we're like, oh, that's cool, we'll just keep doing that. So it was very easy process, but a lot of planning,
right,
and a lot of filming. So it was long but easy.
How do you make the song selection which goes onto video?
Well, we first chose the songs that were going to be singles.
Right.
What we did market research. So we spoke to a lot of the people that we know in the industry.
Okay.
And we sent them demos of the song, like people that we're friends with, like other producers and musicians. And we were like, pick your top 3 songs. And we based the singles off of that to see what people gravitated towards the most. And then we just decided we'll just do videos for the singles, and that's how our contract with Rockshots as well. How that works. So they have a plan of how we're going to release everything, which is really good. It makes everything really, really easy for us. So we always release 3 singles and 2 music videos. Yeah, so we just chose those are the 2 singles that are being released before the album. We'll just do the music videos for those. So yeah, that's literally how it was chosen. Really easy stuff.
Right. I noticed, and I found on YouTube also a few cover songs that you put on video. I think Within Temptation, Nightwish, Evanescence as well. So what's the intention? What's the intention behind that?
That was
it just for fun?
band and everything. Well, that was ages ago. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
That was before Essentia.
Hmm.
That was before the band. That was before
I know,
everything.
YouTube, you find everything there. So when
It's always there. It's gonna be
it's
there
always
forever.
there, it's always there.
Always there. But yeah, at that time, um, it was more about connecting with people, building fan bases and stuff like that. Also, I enjoyed it. So, um, I was actually working with some musicians from, Europe. So one was Andre Serbu, who's from Romania. Another one is Sina, she's from Germany. Um, she's a drummer. Another one was his name's Max Hull, who's from America. Um, and us, like the four of us, we created a little online band.
Right.
And we did some covers and stuff. But I worked with Sinner a lot, and Andre a lot. And we did a lot of collaborations with covers and stuff. And it was more about us all building our own fan bases together. Because none of us really had a fan base when we first started. And now Sinner's doing amazing and Andre's doing amazing. But it was more about just us just having a hit and just, building fan base and just enjoying it.
Hmm.
I think I was I a lot of the covers that I used to do, they're not on there anymore. Um, but I used to do a cover every week.
Oh.
So yeah, there was a new one every single week. I remember every Tuesday going into the studio, time to record a new cover. Um, yeah, but it kept me busy and it really helped me. A lot of it as well was I did it when I was really young as well. I think I was like 13 or 14 in a lot
Right.
of those. And a lot of it was learning how to work in a studio in a professional
Hmm. Hmm.
environment. And I'm really grateful for that because I've been working in a studio since I was like 9 years old. And because I was so young, um, I feel really comfortable in that
Right.
environment now. So yeah.
Interesting. We talked already a little bit about inspirations when it came to lyrics, so but also as a songwriter, inspirations is probably your bread and butter.
Mm.
So what inspires you?
Oh, like I said, a lot of things. Music wise, I can't even explain so many bands and artists out there that I love. I remember during lockdown, this probably is what bled into Cora a little bit. I got really interested in a lot of heavier bands. I love Lorna Shore. They're one of my favorites.
Oh,
I love, yeah, Lorna Shore's one of my favorite bands.
oh,
With their newer stuff, I love their newer
right.
stuff.
Hmm.
And I Return to Nothingness is probably my favorite song by them. Um, yeah, so there was that. I love Spirit Box. Like a lot
Okay,
of those new sounds were kind of coming through, but then I still like I love Nightwish and Looking to Coil, and Within Temptation, and yeah, that was always there. But like other music wise, I listen to a lot of I love Elvini, and we did support them. But I love a lot of that old style Celtic folk music as well.
hmm,
So that I don't know, it just I feel really connected to it, and that kind of inspires me to write as well. I love a lot of dark electronic music too, like
okay,
what Amy does in her solo projects. I
right.
love that stuff. Um, and then a lot of my inspiration as well comes from classical music because I study classical music. I play viola,
Yes.
I play like chamber orchestras and stuff.
What
So a
what
lot
are
of
your
my
what are your favorite composers?
oh, that's hard. I love I know my producer's favorite composer is Beethoven. I love Debussy.
Hmm. Hmm.
He's a pianist
Yeah,
composer. Vivaldi. Oh, who else? There's so many. Um, I love Menotti.
right.
Um, he's composed a few operas. I've done a few of his pieces for opera recitals and stuff. Really, really dark operas, and like I get a lot of inspiration from his stuff as well.
Okay.
Um, opera by him is called The Medium. It's really twisted, and the music is really twisted. But there's also 20th century music, like composers like Minotti, he's a 20th century
Hmm.
composer. Michael Head, who does a lot of 20th century folk operas. So things like that. A lot of different places, as well as art. I love art. My favorite artist is Gustave Doré, who did
Okay.
the art for the Divine Comedy. So again, really dark stuff. A lot of writing, a lot of literature. Um, People like Sylvia Plath, Edgar Allan Poe,
Hmm.
H.P. Lovecraft, and just heaps of music, as well as like bands like The Doors. I love
Okay.
The Doors. Um, I love Jim Morrison. I love his writing. I think it's really, really cool. Like it's really touching. Um, Bands, yeah, so many bands.
So many bands. Yeah, you actually had a long list. So can we frame it? Say, let's do your top 3 metal bands. Is that possible?
Oh, okay. Lorna Shore,
Okay.
Lacuna Coil.
Okay.
I can't think of the third one. There's too many. Um, so yeah, Lorna Shore, Lacuna Coil. Who have I been listening to a lot recently? Oh, this is really hard. I love mm, Powerwolf or Nightwish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. That explains probably the huge variability in your sound.
Yeah, lots of different bands circling in my head at all times.
So
Yeah.
okay, that was as a metal musician. As a metal fan, which bands are you desperate to see live?
Oh, again, Lorna Shore.
Lorna Shore.
I I also, oh, that's really hard. I really, really want to see Sabaton live.
Right.
I've heard,
Okay.
I've heard their shows are really cool. Like I have heard they're like epic. And Ramstein. I really want to see Ramstein live.
Really? Okay.
Mhm.
Good.
What was that? You don't like Ramstein?
It's not so really mine. No.
Like not your thing? Yeah, I really want to see Ramstein live. I feel like I'm butchering the name. I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right. I still remember the band members before they were Rammstein, because they used to have actually a punk band in Berlin. So they
Oh wow,
started with
really?
punk, yeah, in Eastern Berlin, in East part in Berlin, in late 80s, beginning of 90s, yeah,
That's so cool.
called
Had
called
no idea.
Feeling B. That was
Oh wow.
pre-Rammstein, yeah.
I want to try find it. I want to try check it out. That's so
Yeah, I think they
cool.
do have, they released a couple of albums until 92, 93, Feeling B.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna listen to it. That kind of explains some of the stuff that they've got going on. It's got some punk influence in it, I
Yeah,
feel.
yeah, yeah. It's
Very industrial.
yeah, yeah. Let's get personal.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
ask you, I ask you simple questions, and you have to make decision either that or that.
Okay.
Okay. So I do have a few of them. Let's start with something easy. Car or bicycle? What do you
Car.
prefer? Car. You go by car.
Car.
Obviously, in Australia, probably necessary, isn't it?
Very necessary. Yeah, car, definitely.
Next one, gym or sofa?
Oh no. I'm gonna expose myself. Oh no. Okay. I'm gonna expose myself. I've never actually properly been to a gym before. I
Okay,
exercise on my um so since I've never actually exercised at a gym before, I prefer running to a gym or going on
okay, good.
walks. Um yeah. I would say gym, but I don't really
Okay, but
go to
something like outdoor sports counts as well. So are you more the active type, or are you the one who actually love sitting on the sofa watching TV or
More of the active
more of the
type.
active?
Yeah, definitely.
Watching TV, thriller or comedy? If you watch
Thriller,
movies, thriller. Do you have a favorite
definitely.
one?
I love American Psycho.
Right?
Yeah, horror thriller type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I also love. It's more of a psychological thriller. I love Midsummer. I
Okay.
think it's really, really awesome. One of my favorite movies.
Let's come to food. Meat or vegan?
Vegan. I'm
Yeah.
not a vegan. But I prefer vegetarian food to food with
Right.
meat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My Greek family's not going to like that. So.
Do you have any favorite dish? What's your favorite dish?
uh oh, I love moussaka. It's like a Greek lasagna.
Yeah,
It's like egg.
okay, I know. I had an interview earlier this year with a Bulgarian band, and they loved moussaka.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. when um when my grandparents make it, it's the best.
They
Amazing.
told me the same. So I think everyone who watches that, please try moussaka.
Try moussaka. I'm telling you to do it. You have to because I said
Yes, try
it.
moussaka. Do you cook? Do you cook?
Yeah,
Cooking at
I
home or restaurant? What do you prefer?
cooking at home. I prefer home cooked food.
And you cook moussaka,
I don't know how to cook moussaka. My family does that.
right? What do you cook?
um,
What do you cook then?
oh, I don't know. Lots of things. I wouldn't say I'm a good cook.
Right,
I kind of just follow the recipes and hope for the best. Um, I love I remember I make it's like a vegan um ravioli. It's made out of pumpkin.
right,
Vegan gluten-free ravioli. It's like pumpkin base, but then you put like pumpkin inside of it, and you cook it on a pan and you kind of like saute it, and then you serve it with pine pine nuts and things like that. I
right.
like making that. So yeah,
Dog or cat?
cat,
You,
definitely cat.
you do have
I don't
one?
have,
You don't
no, I
have.
don't, but I'm definitely more of a cat person than a dog person. They're just so my producer has like two cats, and whenever I
Right.
go over to his house, yeah, I think his cats hate me though, but I love his cats. Um, yeah, they're just so chill and
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
very goth, so I love them.
I probably would prefer cats as well. Yeah. I don't have
Dogs
any.
have too much energy. They have too much energy for me. I
Yeah.
can't do
Okay.
it.
Speaking about energy, when you go out, you prefer, let's say, theater or nightclub?
Theater,
Theater.
definitely. I don't really like clubbing that much, to be
Right.
honest with you. When you're with friends, it's different. Just the whole environment's kind of
Hmm.
it's a lot. There's a lot going on. Definitely theater. On that, I saw Phantom of the Opera the other day.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's my favorite show. And when I tell you I was shook, it
Hmm.
was the most like the Australian Opera put it on at the Arts Centre in Melbourne, like in the heart of
Right.
Melbourne. And it was probably well, one of the best live shows out of any live show that I've seen ever. Just their voices are immaculate. So
Hmm.
I would go to the theater 100 times over going clubbing. Yeah.
Did you ever consider to pursue an opera career?
I'm still considering it.
You're still considering it.
Yeah, I've definitely, as well as doing metal in Victoria K.
Right.
That's what I love. That's what I do. But like as well as that, I'm still looking to study opera, to
Right.
continue pursuing opera.
Well, you
It's
can
something.
combine both.
Yeah, exactly.
There
That's what
are
I'm
there
trying
are
to
good
do.
examples. There are good examples out there. Laura Macri, for example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I also take a lot of inspiration from Taya
Right.
Tiranen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I that's something that I really, really want to keep pursuing is pursuing
Okay.
a study of opera. Yeah.
Okay. Let's come to a different topic. do you prefer download or vinyls?
Ooh, I do have some vinyls. You can't see
Okay.
them, but they're on
No.
over there.
Right.
I do have a vinyl player. I don't use it very much, so probably download. But being a musician, I would say I still buy vinyls and I still buy CDs just to
Hmm.
support the artist. Um, yeah, I prefer CDs and vinyls because they
Yeah.
support the artist. I do still use downloaded music,
Right.
so I feel like, yeah, but I prefer CDs and
Yeah, me
vinyl.
too. Me too. I actually have tons of CDs, so and I would always choose a CD over downloads and over
It's a different.
vinyls.
I
Hmm?
think it's a different experience. It's a different
Yeah.
experience listening. Like you pick up the CD and then you have the artwork and you got the booklet. I don't
Yes. Yes.
know. I think it's more of an experience than just listening to downloaded music.
Yeah. Of course, definitely. One topic more. Coming to holiday, sea or mountains? What do you prefer when you go to holiday?
It's hard. Well, being in Australia, I normally go to the sea
Yeah.
because we have lots of beaches. But I'd love to go to the mountains. Like it's something that I've never done because we don't have mountains. um, but yeah, probably sea only
Mhm.
because I go there more often. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Any recommendations? I mean, you have plenty of beaches in Australia, I guess, but do you have any recommendations?
Um, we do have Bells Beach, which is the really famous one where the
Okay.
surf competitions are held. I don't recommend swimming in it though because it's really dangerous.
Right.
That's kind of near where I live. It's about an hour away from where I live. I have a house near there, but I don't recommend actually going into the sea there because
Hmm.
it's so dangerous. Um, oh, where do I love? Bondi,
Okay.
um, Sydney, very popular again. Um, been there once years ago, but haven't been since. But near me, there's one that's like right next to Bells. It's called Jan Juc Beach. It's like a surf beach. I don't surf. I have friends that surf,
Hmm.
but yeah, I love it. Maybe because I live like I have a house near there and I go there a lot. I just feel really
Right.
comfortable. But yeah, Jan Juc Beach near Geelong, if you know where
Okay.
that is. Yeah, down here in Victoria. So
You know, for many Europeans, Australia is a dream destination. That is a once of a lifetime trip. So I'm wondering what would be a once of a lifetime trip for you then?
okay. Probably going to Sweden. I really want to go to Sweden.
To Sweden?
Yeah. Yeah, you
Oh,
guys are probably like, oh, Sweden, but to me, like,
yeah.
I really want to go to Scandinavia in general, but even I was talking to my drummer,
Hmm.
James, ages ago, and he really wants to go to Denmark. I remember him saying, he goes, I think if I went to Denmark, I'd cry because of how beautiful it looks. So yeah, Sweden or Denmark, that's where I'm planning on going. I was actually I remember about a year ago, I was like thinking about in the kind of distant-ish future,
Right.
thinking about doing a few months in Sweden,
Okay.
um, and then just kind of settling there for a little bit and then coming back. But then I realized I don't know anybody in Sweden, so I can't really do that. I
Well,
don't know any.
I think that would not be really a problem. So being a few months in Sweden and then, coming back and the next album would be then a melodic death metal album?
Probably, yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I haven't like I thought about it. I never planned anything for it. I just thought about what if I did
Yeah,
this, and then
yeah,
but yeah, Scandinavia, and then probably going then to visit my family in Greece, and then going back to
right.
Scandinavia.
Yeah.
That's my dream.
That sounds like a good plan. I was actually quite impressed by Norway. There are more mountains, there are the fjords and all that
Yeah,
stuff, so that is quite picturesque, I felt.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
I love. Oh, I need to go to Scandinavia. I was talking about it with my friend, and we need to go. I have a friend that used to live in Stockholm
Right.
before he came to
Hmm.
Australia. Loved it. He absolutely loved it. I remember talking to another like kind of more acquaintance that I have who actually moved who is Swedish.
Hmm.
Um, but he had a completely different perspective. He's like, it's too quiet in Sweden.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I think that is normal. You never really appreciate your own country, I guess. So it's the same here. So what would I do in Germany? I mean, for others,
I want,
Germany is a beautiful country.
yeah. My brother went to Germany recently. He loved it. I
Yeah.
want to go to too. That's one of my other dream places to go. But
And
yeah.
you should have seen yourself when I said Australia is a dream destination. You couldn't believe it. So yeah,
No, I can't. Yeah, when you said that, I was like, really? Really?
yeah. You
Okay.
see, you see,
Yeah. Mm.
excellent. I'm almost at the end of my questions, unfortunately. It was so fun with you. Um,
Awesome.
and but what are the plans? What are the next plans for Victoria K?
Well, we're planning everything is still under wraps at the
Right.
moment, but planning potentially another Australian tour for Kore and potentially, fingers crossed, don't take my word for it yet. We're all in the planning stages. Um, coming to Europe,
That
either
would have been my next question.
yeah, either
When?
when are you gonna come? Either late this year or sometime next year,
Okay.
maybe. So yeah, it's all in the planning stages at the moment.
Okay. So European fans can be very excited,
Hope
potentially.
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 Keep it potentially, yeah.
And Australian fans will be excited or will
They will
get
be
more exposed to symphonic metal,
exactly sharing the
and
love.
can be all very excited about the next album as well.
Yeah, it's look, considering that Cora was pretty much written the day that Essentia got released, there have been some plans for
Yeah,
the next album. You know, probably in a few years' time. So you can wait.
of course,
This
of
is
course,
definitely, yeah,
of course.
yeah,
Excellent. Thank you so much. Do you have any final word to your fans, to Metal Temple viewers?
yeah. I'm just gonna say thank you so much to Metal Temple for having me on. Thank you so much for the interview. It's been really fun, actually, really,
Mhm.
really fun. I always love, talking to people about, music and just everything really. So I'm really grateful to be on Metal Temple and that you can stream Core everywhere now. So go check it out.
Okay, thank you very much for that amazing interview.
Thank you so much for having me on.